more I watch discussions with Michael Saylor, the more impressed I've become. Today, I'm bringing a clip of Michael from Robert Breedlove's The What Is Money show. If you want to watch the full clip, watch it on his YouTube channel. In this clip, Michael talks about 21st century warfare, where war will be fought with drones and robot dogs that are controlled through cyberspace. Cyberspace is already infected with fake bot accounts. Bitcoin and blockchain will be the solution to security issues involving identity and control. Michael is more based than I first thought. I think his involvement with Bitcoin has caused him to think deeply about these issues, and we need people like Michael on our side. Don't let the future terrify you. Control of cyberspace will be the key to a better future, and Bitcoin is the key to that security. Please enjoy the clip.
This seems like a very Darwinian picture, where it's animals fighting over territory effectively. Is that how you see it? That we've kind of created these systems of property to fight over territory, and if so, if property and territoriality are related, what does that mean for something like Bitcoin? Bitcoin being this unbreakable or difficult to break form of property. How does that change this equation and this game?
It does seem like if you read enough history, if you read enough history, you just see tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of battles and wars just fought over property. Someone wants to take something from somebody else, and after they finish taking it, then whoever the ruler is starts redistributing the property amongst their subjects, generally in a corrupt fashion, and someone's fighting to not be abused, and it's just a never-ending struggle of the more powerful dominating the less powerful, with no end in sight. The tools change. The significance of the 21st century warfare is this, right? It's not going to be about manpower, right? You don't need 1 million people to fight a war. You don't need any of the conventional systems to fight a war. The wars are going to be fought with custom silicon manufactured devices, machines. It'll be it's not that I just aren't impressed with you as a soldier, but it's just like I want you to be a soldier about as much as I want 300 beefy dudes rowing my trireme instead of having 1,000 horsepower on the back of my tender, right?
Right.
It's just you have become singularly unimpressive to me as
right.
as a human participant in this battle.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fight that way. We're going to actually manufacture drones, machines. Munitions are going to matter, engines are going to matter, power sources are going to matter, and then control of the airspace, control of space, outer space, and control of cyberspace is now going to matter. So all of human conflict, all of the rational human conflict, right? Intelligent humans with a will to power will shift their focus to outer space, cyberspace, space. And that there will be unintelligent, irrational, examples of governments, leaders, organizations. They will cling to the 20th century. They're the ones that fielded cavalries during World War I. They're the ones that want to fight with machine guns when the bombs are falling. They're the ones that built the Maginot Line. They're the ones that will want to build 100 very expensive ships or build the next human-powered fighter aircraft, right? We need the fighters to protect the bombers, and we need the bombers because they fly slower, because we don't want the humans to get hurt. And we need, ejection apparatus to protect the human beings, and we need, flight training schools, right? No, you don't need any of that, right? It all just goes away. So when humanity shifts to this new form of warfare, call it swarm cybernetic warfare, then there's going to be a physical question and there's going to be a cyber question. The physical question is going to be, can you manufacture those devices? Like when there's 5,000 drones swarming over Washington, D.C., do they have the physical apparatus to stop them, shut them down, interdict them, or shoot them down, right? Scramble them. And then the second question is going to be, can you defend, after you defend your airspace, can you defend your outer space? Because someone's going to start shooting down those satellites, right? Or jamming them. Right? If I'm using satellites for bandwidth or GPS, can I jam them? So to the extent that matters, then can you protect that? And then the third question, the most important question, I believe, and this is where Bitcoin comes in, is can you actually secure your cyberspace? Who controls cyberspace? Can your enemy dominate it? So for example, right now, if I ran a nation state hostile to the West, I might very well generate millions and millions, tens of millions of fake accounts on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, the like. And I would run them with computer programs and now with AI. And I would make them very articulate, charismatic people. And I would use them to distort reality. Whenever something happens that causes Americans to want to fight with each other, create a civil war, if I wanted if I want the Democrats to hate the Republicans, I would actually launch the bot army to create that civil war. And I would get state to fight with state. I would get brother to fight with brother. I would get people in the North to fight with the people in the South. I would get all the races to fight with each other. And I would just launch nonstop, never-ending toxicity. And so much so that people didn't know the difference between reality and not. Because the truth is, there really isn't one reality. There isn't, the problem with the truth, and this will take us to a subject of stories, right?
Yeah.
When I tell you the story of the colonist that showed up in the New World, and I tell it in English from the point of view of the English, I discount the French, but I also discount the American Indians. But the American Indians aren't one Indian. There's thousands of Indian tribes and sub-tribes, and they fought with each other, right? And so the Spaniards fought with who knows how many tribes in South America and the like. The Indians fought with each other. The colonists fought with each other. There's never-ending set of fights, and there's always a story of, well, a bunch of these people came and murdered us, and so we went to war to protect our rights. But they always leave out the part where, well, someone from our village went and murdered them first.
Right.
Or they came and they attacked us because we had actually, seized and enslaved, half of their village and shipped them off to the West Indies. They leave out that part, right? And so when you start reading the history, like Murray Rothbard's, his book is like 250 chapters. It just goes on and on and on. And none of it was taught to you when you were in high school. None of it. When you start reading the history, what you find is there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of chapters of history. It's all true, and or whatever you call truth. Let's just say, for the benefit, let's give everybody a benefit of a doubt. It's all true. You want to hear the story of how, whites enslaved Africans in pre-Revolutionary War America. There's 10,000 stories of them. But you can also hear 10,000 stories of whites being enslaved in Africa on the Barbary coast. You can also hear the story of 10,000, Bostonian Puritans being enslaved by British on ships and dying, right? Hundreds of thousands of chapters of horrific truth. I can get you to believe and I can get you to feel anything simply by filtering out 10,000 chapters of horrific truth where you're the good guy and they're the bad guys.
Right. Cherry pick.
Whatever it is. Just a question of how do I weight it.
Yeah.
So the issue with cyberspace is I can create any perception if I control cyberspace, and I can block any other perception, and I can amplify a third, right? So I can introduce a thought into your head. I can amplify a thought that's there and make it 100x as painful. I can numb, a reality that you're aware of such that you act irrationally. I can do all of those things if I can control the information systems. And so when you think about the wars of the 21st century and beyond, you're going to have to dominate cyberspace or protect your cyberspace. And, in one way, something as simple as on Twitter, what if I just eliminated all of the bots on Twitter? In my experience, 95% of the toxicity is generated by non-people, has traditionally been on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And when they eliminated the bots, 95% of the uncivil, toxic behavior that made everybody enraged just went away. It was never people. You hated people that disagreed with you, but 95% of that hate was actually fueled by bots, not by those people. So partly you get rid of that and you start to cure the mental health of the civilization. But there's another part to this, which is if I want to pass a message, then you have to figure out how are you going to avoid a denial of service attack? How do you avoid someone flooding or jamming the cyber frequencies in order to prevent you from controlling whatever, your army of robots? Right? Mm-hmm. What happens when someone decides to hack the controller, right? The real risk is if you've concentrated the power of 10,000 robot dogs, well, who's controlling the 10,000 robots? Mm-hmm. 3 admins? 1 admin? Okay, what happens if I hack the admin and I get root privileges and now I control the 10,000 robot dogs? Right? Maybe they're not attacking the enemy. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're attacking the creator. Mm-hmm. Or maybe the enemy is the one that hacked your army. This is, a fiction sometimes imitates reality or vice versa. But, if you watch Battlestar Galactica, that's how the entire series starts. Right? Human beings come up with a defense system. And then the Cylons hack it. Mm. And they just turn it off, and then they turn it against the humans, right? And so you have to actually ask the question, how am I going to secure my cyberspace? And I think that one answer, an important answer, is proof of work. Mm-hmm. Right, and the cyber defense system, which is Bitcoin. If you think of Bitcoin as just money, you're thinking too small. Yes, it's money, and it's truthful money, but the reason Bitcoin is the hardest money in the history of the world is because it has integrity. Not because it's a computer system that uses energy. It's a system that was engineered to have integrity and to be thermodynamically sound, to actually manifest scarcity. And that integrity can be used for the root application of money and banking, if you will, especially money and monetary transfer. But there's a lot of other things you can do with it. And the other things have to do with integrity and veracity. And we call it the truth machine, not just a money machine. So, for example, on Twitter, an AI could generate 10 million fake Michael Saylor accounts. Could generate 1 million an hour. And maybe I could try to block them all as fast as I could, but actually there are legitimate other people named Michael Saylor. Mm-hmm. There's 10,000 other people named Michael Saylor. Right? I'm just one of the Michael Saylors. Right? Mm-hmm. You could generate 100 million other accounts that aren't with my name, but just are interesting people. Now, should they get to participate in society? How do you stop that? Well, I mean, there's two things you want to do. One, the Nostr idea is I publish my public key and I have a private key, and I use my private key to sign my message. Sort of good, but it doesn't solve the problem because the AI can still generate 100 million Nostr people. Right? Because it's not, and here you see the issue is non-conservation of energy. Mm-hmm. I can generate 1 million accounts, 1 billion accounts, 1 trillion accounts. I'm just running the computer. And if anything, what the AI's done is the AI has shown that it can actually do what anything you can do, it can do better, and it can do 1 million times faster. So no amount of information can serve as proof of humanity. The AI's read everything that's been written by every human that's ever written it, and that means the AI can give you 100,000-page biography of why it's more trustworthy than you, Robert. You can fill out a 20-page form. It can fill out a 20-page form every 10 milliseconds. You're not winning, right? You're not going to win this battle. So how are you going to actually defeat that or even put a check on it? And the simple answer is, I don't just generate the public-private key combination. I generate it in conjunction with a Bitcoin transaction on the base layer, which might cost $1, which might cost $15, right? This weekend, sometimes people are paying $30, some amount of money. It doesn't really matter whether it's $1 or $100, right? What matters is I paid money and it took time. In that particular case, you could create a cyber passport. I'm going to call it an orange check, a digital identity. Your digital identity is cryptographically secured. The digital identity of Robert Breedlove might be secured by a single private key with a public key that's mated to it. The digital identity of MicroStrategy might be secured by 3 of 5 multi-sig. And the digital identity of, a city might be secured by the city council, which is 5 of 7 or 7 of, fill in the blank, right? 4 of 7, right? Don't hold me to all the different multi-sig configurations. But you can go with multi-signature to sign a message from an organization or maybe a family. You have 3 of 5 that secures your family and identifies it. So now I create this identity. I burn it into the Bitcoin blockchain. Now I digitally sign my accounts. Like right now, you can get a message from Michael Saylor on WhatsApp, but it's not me. And there's no method for me to verify. There is a method, by the way, for you to verify on Twitter. It costs $8 a month for a blue check. It costs $1,000 a month for a gold check. It costs $1,000 a month plus $50 a month for every officer of the corporation verified with the gold check. Not cheap. Not cheap, but also not open and not portable. So regardless of whether you think that's a great idea, the problem is I can't take the gold check and use it on YouTube and use it on Instagram and use it on WhatsApp and Telegram and Office 365. There's a cryptographic certification in Office 365, and the Microsoft email system gives you a blue check if you have the certificate on your hardware devices, but it doesn't cross the other email platforms. And sometimes it actually is blocked by other email platforms. So what you have today is you have a bunch of proprietary certifications that are unwieldy, expensive, not egalitarian, and they're not open, they're not programmable, they're not verifiable. And you have a bunch of cyber systems that are either not secure, they're fragile, or they're toxic. Some of them are just outright toxic. You can point to them and say there's garbage on them. Others are centrally managed and they're fragile. because maybe the big tech company does a good job of squeezing people they think are scammers off their platform, but they also squeeze people that just have a different opinion from the power structure or the executive team, and they don't distinguish between those two. So they're very fragile in that regard. And when they squeeze you off their platform, you lose your identity forever in that space. You can imagine if you use an iPhone and Apple just X's your account on the day you wake up and you find out that your account has been deleted, right? It's a problematic thing. There's no court order. There's no due process, right? And in that regard, the big tech networks are more powerful than nation states to society. So I think in this world, the real question is, if you run a family, a corporation, if you're an individual, or if you're a governmental entity, how do you prove the veracity of your utterance, right? How do you sign your message? How do you sign your contracts? How do you sign your accounts? And how do you verify when there's 100 million other accounts which claim to be you that are actually look more like you than you look like you? The AI version of you, if you go on vacation for 2 weeks and the AI just learns on all of your former videos, the AI will look at all your former videos, look at the news of today, generate the podcast, and it'll look like what Robert Breedlove would have done, but Robert Breedlove's not there to contest it. And so, if it's used for good, I don't know, maybe, but if it's used for mischief, a bit more disturbing. But what if it's used for malice? And the only answer is you need somehow to cryptographically be able to secure something, but there needs to be some thermodynamic security to it, such that, if I can guess your password 1,000,000 times in a row and you've got one of those 4-digit pins, right, then I'll crack it. You need to actually say, well, you only get 3 guesses, right? That's friction in the real world, right? You can't move 1 billion trillion miles an hour in the real world because you will burn up, right? Not to mention the fact that it violates all sorts of laws of physics. There needs to be a real world sound barrier or light barrier, or else the universe doesn't work. And the same is true in cyberspace. There have to be physical cost imposed in cyberspace against malefactors. And the greatest system for doing that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be described in this regard as the most powerful cyber network. It is a digital power network, and a Bitcoin miner